We're experts in documents and document management, all parts of the contract lifecycle. So we help our customers sign documents, manage contracts, edit PDFs, compress PDFs, and do a whole lot with their documents. So we've got a suite of products. One of them is Lumin PDF. That's our PDF editor. And that would be similar to something like Adobe Acrobat you'd see in the market, but it's cloud native. We built it, in the browser from the start. So that means it works really well with Google Drive, SharePoint, or OneDrive just natively. It's kind of plug and play. And then we've got our Lumin Sign product, which is competing more with a DocuSign, but it tends to get usage in high volume applications. So it's better suited to things like HR agreements, property management agreements, all of those things that you need to do kind of at pretty high volume, and where a DocuSign up at its price point might be more suitable for one-off large contracts or something like that. And then we've got our Agreement Gen product, which is all about generating documents with AI. It allows you to kind of template or edit existing contracts with AI, formulate those, and then get those sent out for signing. There's two main reasons. The first one, obviously, being security. We've got billions of documents under management, so we want to make sure that the access controls super secure, that we're providing SAML where customers want SAML, that we're providing kind of two-factor authentication if they want that. Everything is well tested and compliant. So that's sort of the primary side. The other side to it is that, one of our values is simplicity. So we want our login flows to be very, very simple and very, very user-friendly. If they're opening a PDF out of SharePoint, we want to open that straight into Lumin, and we want to make sure they're logged into the right account and that everything's secure and that the customer doesn't get confused by different, authentication methods. Using Ori is very important because it enables those super seamless authentication flows, which to the customer just feel, super native and super organic. But obviously there's layers and layers of security going on underneath. We've got 120 million users total on the platform. That's growing about 10 million every couple of months. So a lot of new signups, millions of signups a month. And about 50% of them are B2B and 50% of them consumer. Pretty large scale on both the consumer side and the B2B. In the B2B world, that spans everything from small businesses right up to Fortune 500. The main challenges we were facing with the more advanced pieces on authentication. We had a long wish list of things that we needed to implement. SAML, two-factor authentication, social login. We already supported sign-in with Google. Customers were really used to very efficient and very fast authentication. The login flow just happened straight for them. We needed to find a solution that would then meet enterprise requirements in terms of more rigorous identity. And that's where Ori was really, really great. So what we were looking for from a solutions partner was someone who could support this consumer scale that we have. So we needed someone that was able to support those 120 million users, those millions of signups a month, and do it in a way that was both cost efficient, but also computationally efficient. So, we weren't slowing down the system because we need to provide the best experience to our users. And so when we looked at a lot of the providers that exist in the market today, we found that a lot of them, when we presented those sort of scale numbers to them, there was some sort of hesitation. We knew that their products might not benchmark and handle that scale. They may not be able to handle that in sort of a globally distributed sense as well, because we've got customers all around the world. So we really needed someone that could support that scale. But we also needed someone who could support those enterprise requirements in terms of supporting the things like SAML, supporting the things like social login. And that was a difficult thing to find in the market in terms of a supplier that would meet all of those requirements. But Ori was a perfect fit. From what we can see, the underlying systems are very efficient. They've all been written in Golang. They're open source, so everyone understands kind of how they work and why. And everyone can also understand the performance bottlenecks, all the performance gains that are made. So we're very comfortable with that. But then at the same time, it's not just open source software that we have to manage ourselves. It's open source software that we can leave to the experts to manage, which is great because we also don't want to be managing our own identity. We were using Node Express Passport, open source Node packages for identity management. The reason, we've never been a believer that we should be doing our own identity, but on the same side, there's just not that many solutions out there, or at least there wasn't a few years ago, that really support that sort of scale. So we had built most of our own identity systems up until using Ori. Identity and authentication is such a big part of every platform. Having that open source is a real win, right? Being able to understand how that piece of Lumin works. Even though I know there's some proprietary side on the hosting that Ori's doing, but it's very, very helpful for us to have a rough understanding of how that system works, because then our engineers can get a sense of what the performance characteristics might be, what the future possibilities might be in terms of features, which is really, really helpful, as opposed to a fully sort of closed off service where, we got no idea how that thing's running. Like, that thing might be built on some language from the 60s and it can't be maintained. We don't know, right? And while we're not too worried about individual code paths, we are worried about things like that. Is the platform built in a way that will kind of give it longevity? Is the platform built in a way that will give it performance? If we were to hit, some really strange performance bottleneck, can we go and figure out, or work with the Ori team to figure out what might be going on? There's a few results after deployment. One was working with larger businesses became a lot easier for us. That was probably the main one, because we were able to support kind of the more rigid authentication requirements that they had. So that was probably the main win for us. Following Ori, we brought on a number of banking customers. We brought on a number of Fortune 500 customers, and we were able to support them because we're using an identity platform used by other big enterprises. And so we're sort of reached feature parity there. I would say that was kind of the main benefit for us. The other side for us was making sure that the experience, especially for our small businesses and our consumers, wasn't degraded. And so we ran for a while kind of both identity providers in parallel, A/B tested them against each other just to make sure that the performance of what we were running in-house was equal to the performance that we're getting out of Ori. We saw, really positive signals in terms of lots of sign-ups and good performance. So that was the other side where, we didn't lose anything, but we were able to bring on kind of these bigger enterprise customers, which is obviously a huge win for the company. Those new 60 million customers would have all signed up through the Ori flow. That wouldn't have happened if it wasn't seamless, if it wasn't fast. Particularly consumers and our small to medium businesses, they're time poor and they want to move extremely quickly. And so they want really frictionless authentication flows. So being able to provide that to them meant that we could scale at the rate we did. The Ori team helped us achieve our goals through providing a lot of support, even technical support, through the implementation process. So as we moved over to Ori, we needed to figure out, how our platform would connect. And we had some flows that are a little bit different than your standard authentication flows. So we have flows where customers will be coming out of something like a Google Drive or a Microsoft SharePoint straight into our product. So they're not hitting a traditional sort of sign-up page along the way there. And the Ori team helped us to engineer those solutions and get those in place. There's not necessarily any blogs on exactly how to do that. And we've been really impressed with the technical support there. Having kind of a direct line of communication to the engineers has been fantastic. The Ori team have also helped us on some of the more challenging tasks like implementing SAML, and we know they're always there to kind of help us and guide us in terms of how these things should be implemented. We've got a fantastic team of engineers, so we do a lot of that implementation ourselves, but there's always like one little pickup or one little thing that our engineers can't quite figure out. And then having the team there just to help us get through that really quickly is great in terms of shipping product fast. At Lumin, so we are building a platform for signing documents, for processing documents in the background using AI agents, and we're developing that piece out a lot. What that means is we've got a whole lot of new requirements in terms of our kind of authentication and identity, because now we have API access, we have OAuth 2 access flows, we have background processes which need to check permissions. So we've got a whole lot of more complexity in that space. And that's where Ori can help us kind of simplify that, make sure that, the permissions are rigid, that the identity management and the token issuance is really rigid, that the OAuth 2 flows that we offer are fully compliant, so that we can help our customers do those kind of document processing flows, especially with AI. So extract data from those documents or get those documents signed in the background without a user kind of interacting with the platform directly. We still firmly believe that Ori is the best identity management and authentication platform out there on the market. So there's a glowing recommendation from us. We've seen great reliability, very little downtime. We've seen great performance. We've seen Ori be able to handle massive scale in terms of 100 million users, millions of signups a month. We've seen great APIs, and so we would 100% recommend Ori to any other business. We originally came to Ori looking for identity management and looking for authentication, but as the Lumin platform grew out and we added more APIs and more endpoints, more background processing, we were really happy with how the full Ori platform was able to support us. You've got your machine-to-machine tokens, you support us becoming an OAuth provider, not just a consumer, which means that we can offer APIs to our customers with OAuth authentication, which is a lot more than what we were looking for at the start in terms of identity. So having that in place has allowed us to scale from simple SaaS business, online PDF editor, through to like a full platform that can handle document processing, document generation, agreement templating, document signing, all of that, with both sort of on-session flows where the user is kind of front and center, but also off-session flows where APIs are being consumed and documents are being sent off on the API. So I think that's sort of the really interesting journey for Lumin with Ori, is that we've gone from that B2B SaaS, pretty standard kind of setup in the browser, to a full AI-enabled platform. And the complexity of those flows, we wouldn't have been able to build that without Ori. We don't want our engineers to spend the time kind of building out those OAuth 2 flows where they could be actually working on AI data extraction or AI redaction of documents, and much more sort of impactful features for our customers.